Just 2 years ago, Ron Tanner, one of Loyola's own professors, published a memoir called From Animal House to Our House about the restoration of his beautiful Victorian home that was once condemned property, abandoned by a now banned Johns Hopkins fraternity. I sat down with Ron Tanner recently to discuss his story. I'm Grace Goldoni. Let's take a look.
It's a funny story because my then girlfriend, now wife, Jill, and I loved old houses and loved flea marketing, loved auctions, and I had a plan. My plan was that after 1 month of dating her, I was so in love with her, I thought that if I bought an old house, she would want to move in, help me, make it beautiful, and we'd get married and live happily ever after. That was my plan. I had no plan to write a book or restore a house or anything else. I just wanted to buy an old house and have this woman fall in love with it and with me, and we would get married. So,
now it seems so worth it, I'm sure, but at the time when you were looking at houses, what made you think of all the houses in Baltimore? You had to buy the one that was condemned property, that was you knew was going to take you years. What was it that made you go for it?
The great thing was that I was so ignorant that I just went for it. I just said, okay, if you think we can do it, Jill. And the kicker was that, she took me back to my apartment. I was reeling that day when she said, no, this is the house. This hits every bullet point on our wish list. And I said, no, we can't do this. This is impossible. She said, you'll never find another house like this. And I said, well, damn straight, it's condemned property. I don't want another house like this. Well, then she reached over and put her hand on mine. She said, Ron, I will help you fix it up. And to me, that was like a proposal. To me, that was like, let's get married. This is it.
And so you thought you had it.
I thought I had it. I thought we would get into that house. We would work on it for 2 years. We'd knock it out. It'd be great. And then we'd get married and everything would be fantastic. But that's not the way it worked.
Truly a labor of love.
Yes, we were in big trouble the minute we walked into the house.
I remember reading that the only thing you knew before buying the house about renovating a house was, or even working on a house, was painting.
Yes, I knew how to paint a room.
How much of that and how did you learn all of this along the way?
We learn by doing, and that's what isn't that the Jesuit pedagogy also? You just get in there and learn by doing. So really it was just a necessity. The fraternity that had owned this house, the fraternity had wrecked this house. It was an old fraternity house. They had owned it for 10 years and they had destroyed it.
So it was Delta Upsilon, if I remember?
Delta Upsilon, they fondly referred to themselves as DA. That was their nickname, DA, and they aspired to Dudum, I guess.
How did you feel about them going through the construction process and now?
I was so pissed off at them. I was so angry at them because they had done so much damage. They'd used every door for target practice with darts and knives, and someone had taken a hatchet and started chopping up the mahogany banister that ran up 3 flights of stairs. They took baseball bats and batted out 72 hand-turned balusters from the main staircase. They took those same bats and batted the lath and plaster wall. So everything needed repair. And I was so angry at them. But years later, I kind of calmed down because had they not wrecked the house, I could not have gotten the house. I got the house dirt cheap. And also, I'm now in contact with the boys.
You are?
Well, after this Old House magazine featured our work in 2008, they posted that story online, and that story went viral.
How long did it take you just to get the house in livable condition, since there was no plumbing, no electricity when you bought the house?
We wouldn't even put paint to the walls in this house for 3 years. I was plastering for a year, and when we first started, I just thought, oh, we'll have this done in 2 years. And then they said, oh, we'll have this done in 5 years. And they said, oh, we'll have this done maybe in 8 years. It's been 14 years now. But we got the house together, finally, to the point where, about year 5 or 6, when people would walk in about year 5 or 6, then they would look at the house and go, oh, yeah, this looks pretty good. But before that, they would walk in and they'd say, oh, wow, you're working on the house still.
Still.
Yeah, still. There was lots of still.
You're in your 14th year now working on the house. You wrote that you would never work on the house for 20 years. Do you think that that's still going to be true?
Yes, in an old house you're never done. And that's the fun part. I mean, why would you take on an old house if you don't like the work? I mean, You've got to like the work. We love the work. And so what we're doing now is we're doing all kinds of refinements, things that the original owners would be surprised at, maybe would have thought, well, why would you do that? Like the servants' stairs, which would have been bare bones, nothing, nothing pretty about it. We made it pretty, but there's still a lot of mistakes we have to correct.
Well, now looking at the house, what is your favorite room that you've worked on?
This is it, the library. I can come up here and just hang out if I want to. There's always a cat around. And it's got the best view in the house. It looks over the skyline of the Charles Village, a bunch of Victorian houses all the way up the block. When it snows, this is a killer place to be. It's a nice, cozy area. I sometimes have friends up here, and whatnot. So yeah, this is my favorite. This is my favorite room.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having us,
Thanks
and
for
I
coming.
wish you luck with the next 6 years or more of continuing to make this house what it is and so beautiful.
Thanks, Grace.
So thank you again for having
Sure.
us.